Hey, boys and girls, it's Mrs. Demeter, and today for one of your reading assignments, you have to do what we did yesterday with that storyboard, right? And all of those different story elements. And Mrs. Demeter gave you a passage that you need to read about the school bus on the first day of school. And it's a short little story passage, and then I gave you the storyboard chart. And your assignment was that you have to pick out things, the characters, the setting, the problem, the solution, and place them in your storyboard chart from that short passage that I gave you. So, thinking about our story for this week about the sky, I want you to think about having a storyboard for that story. So if we think back, and I know that you don't have it right in front of you, mine is right here. But why the sky is far away, right, is our folktale for the week. And if we think about, first of all, the setting of the story. Okay, we said the setting could be where or when. But I think as far as our story for this week about the sky, because it is talking about the sky, I think it's mostly centered about where the setting is, right? Where does the story take place? Well, it takes place outside, right? Because obviously we have the moon. So that would be our setting. And our characters, there were quite a few characters in there, and you don't always have to list all the characters that were in the story, but maybe just some of the important characters or some of the main characters. And I would say the children, right, from the story in the village. The sky is a character, right? The sky came to life, he talks. And remember, in folktales, animals and different things can come to life and talk, right? Those are the fun things about folktales. So the sky would be a character. Oba, right? The Oba from the sky. I guess that is the sky. So I guess it's the same type of thing because Oba's speaking through the sky, right? And then Adesi, remember the lady, the woman? She was a really important character towards the end of the story. But those are all of our characters. Now, the wants of the characters, the heart of the character, what do they want? They always want more, right? They want food, but they keep wanting more and they take a lot, right? So their want is that they want more food, okay? So then we come to our problem, right? And again, think about problems as it gets worse. Don't just add one problem in the story because the problem usually builds, right, throughout the story. And again, the problem comes kind of quick in a story because usually then you can have lots of details of that problem. For example, this problem first started when the people started taking more than they needed from the sky, right? They didn't need all that, but they just kept taking. And so the sky grew angry, right? The sky started growing angry, and Oba started growing angry, and thick black clouds came on, and Oba warned the people, do not take more than you have, or else I'm going to take it away from you, right? He warned them, and he turned the skies black, and he made the skies rumble, and so then we get to Adesi, which is the next problem in the story, and because the village was doing great, they weren't taking more than what they wanted, but then Adesi at the end, she was one of those women who always wanted more, right? Couldn't have enough. So she decided after that party to come home that night and take some of the sky, but she took too much, and she didn't know what to do with it, and she couldn't eat it all, right? And so she tried to get her kids and her husband and the townspeople to eat, but they couldn't eat all that she took. So then the thunder and the lightning came, but no rain, right? All the dark clouds came again, and sky leaves. The sky tells them that he's leaving and he's not coming back, and they have to fend for themselves, right? So then we come to the solution. And in the solution, in the end, the people know that they have to grow their own food, they have to till their own land, and they have to plant crops and harvest them. So in the end, the solution was that they learned how to get food on their own. Now, I think this is a great lesson, right? And folktales do teach lessons. They're passed down from generation to generation, right? And they usually teach some sort of moral lesson. And I think even in ourselves, we tend to want, and take more than what we even have, right? And sometimes we get a little greedy because I think the people in the story were a little greedy, right? They didn't need all of that stuff from the sky. They only needed what they really needed to keep themselves from being hungry, right? But it's kind of like us. We want more, right? I have a great example. For example, my son, who loves video games, which I'm sure lots of you do, right? He will say, "Can you give me money for," and I don't even know, but they have something online where they can get extra points or something. So, of course, I think I'm doing a great job and I give him $5 or whatever to get some points. But then the next day he wants more, right? And more, and the next day, and it just keeps building up. It never seems to be enough because you get used to that. So I think we have to remember, and folktales do a great job at teaching us lessons, to be appreciative of what we have, right? Because you never know when it's going to get taken away from you. So be appreciative of what you do have and take care of the things that you do have instead of always wanting more. So this is another example of a storyboard from our story of this week. When you take it apart, and again, you just plot words down. You don't have to write sentences at this point. But when I go to retell my story into a summary, guess what, guys? I have all of these pieces that I can put into sentences that will give my summary a great retelling, okay? So this is how we're learning how to write a summary, and we're going to be doing that in our small group books a lot. You'll be reading the book, and then Mrs. Demeter will ask you to write a summary or retell what the story was about. And sometimes that's the hardest thing because you want to tell every single thing that happened to the story, or you want to copy sentences out of the book, and that's not what we're supposed to do. When we retell a story, this is what we're doing. We're taking out those key elements, those story elements, putting it into a storyboard, and then transferring that storyboard into sentences that creates our summary of retelling of a story. Okay, so when you go to do this today in your reading assignment, hopefully this will help you. Read that passage Mrs. Demeter gave you and take it apart, right? Take it apart into the different story elements of a storyboard.